What if I told you there's a part of the Bible that was never supposed to be read? A story so dangerous, they tried to erase it. But it didn't stay buried. Because truth has a way of surviving. Before Genesis finished its tale, before the flood swept across a cursed world, there was a book. A forbidden one. And in its pages, a story, older than time, darker than myth, about beings that were never meant to walk among us. This is the story of the Watchers, the angels who defied the heavens. Of the Nephilim, giants born from lust and rebellion. And of Enoch, the man who walked with God, and saw the end from the beginning. Hidden for centuries. Banned from the Bible. Feared by rulers, silenced by scribes. The book of Enoch was more than forgotten, it was forbidden. Why? Because it revealed something humanity wasn't ready to hear. That evil didn't start with man. It started with those who watched. And now, after generations of silence, the veil is lifting. The truth is breaking through. And what it reveals, could shake the very foundation of what we thought we knew. So buckle in. Because you're about to hear a story that shocked the world. One that connects ancient judgment to modern chaos. And might just hold the key to everything happening now. This isn't just mythology. This is prophecy. And it starts with a fall. In the beginning, the earth was quiet. The heavens watched from above, and the world moved in harmony. Men lived simple lives, and the stars obeyed their courses. Angels, divine messengers, stood on the edge of creation, watching in silence. There was order. There was balance. Until they came. It began not with violence, but with a gaze. A longing. A breaking of boundaries not through war, but through desire. And in that desire, the veil between heaven and earth began to tear. 1.2 The arrival of the Watchers. They were called the Watchers. 200 in number, mighty and radiant, sent not to rule, but to observe. Their mission? To guide, to guard, to witness the unfolding of humanity. But they were not immune to temptation. Led by Semyaza, their leader, a being of fire and wisdom, they stood atop Mount Hermon. And there, something changed. They saw the daughters of men, and saw that they were beautiful. Not with the eyes of angels, but with hearts already turning. Semyaza knew the cost. He feared being punished alone. So he spoke to the others. Let us bind ourselves by an oath, that we may all share the blame. And with that, the covenant was sealed. 200 angels, once loyal, made a pact under the stars, to descend. Not as watchers, but as gods among men. 1.3 The Forbidden Covenant. They came down in brilliance, cloaked in power. And they took for themselves wives from among human women. Not once. Not twice. But as lords ruling over villages, cities, bloodlines. But this was no ordinary union. From this unnatural bond came forbidden fruit, knowledge, and destruction. The Watchers began teaching what was never meant to be known. Azazel taught men how to forge swords, knives, shields, and how to kill. Semyaza revealed enchantments, incantations, twisted words of power. Others taught astrology, signs of the stars, secrets of the heavens. Even women were taught to adorn themselves with paints, jewelry, weapons of seduction and pride. The earth, once innocent, became a crucible of war and corruption. Magic, vanity, blood, all gifts from angels who fell. This wasn't just sin. It was rebellion. And its roots ran deep. 1.4 The earth cries out. What began as fascination turned to devastation. The natural world, once at peace, groaned under the weight of corruption. Animals turned wild. Crops began to wither. Men turned on men. The innocent were hunted. And blood cried from the ground. The balance was broken. And the heavens wept. Angels were not meant to father children. Yet what grew in the wombs of human women was something no one expected. Giants. Titans. Beings of power and fury. The Nephilim. But that is only the beginning. Act 2, The Rise of the Nephilim. 2.1 Children of the Mixture. They were born with eyes of fire and cries that shook the heavens. Half angel, half man, but fully monsters. The Nephilim walked the earth as uncrowned kings. Too tall for the world of men. Too wicked for the kingdom of heaven. They didn't just live. They devoured. With an insatiable hunger, they consumed everything. The harvests, the herds, the bodies, and the souls. And when the earth could no longer sustain them, they began devouring each other. 2.2 The Reign of Giants. Civilizations began to raise altars to these beings. Men, out of fear or desperation, called the Nephilim gods. They accepted sacrifices. They demanded blood. They took women. They built kingdoms. Entire cities rose around the worship of their names. And where wisdom and peace once ruled, now there was tyranny, war, and cannibalism. The Nephilim ruled with fists of stone and voices like thunder. And mankind obeyed. But not all. There were whispers of a man. A righteous man. Someone who walked with God. But that story is still to come. 2.3 The Wrath of Heaven. From his heavenly throne, the Most High watched. And what he saw was pain. The earth, soaked in violence. The women, broken by corruption. The children, robbed of their innocence. The blood, a river crying out for justice. Then the verdict was spoken. The Most High sent forth the archangels with clear commands. Bind the watchers. Destroy the Nephilim. Purify the earth. Uriel descended with lightning in his eyes. Gabriel carried the fire of justice. Michael, the commander of the celestial armies, wielded the flaming sword. And Raphael would heal what remained. The war between heaven and the giants had begun. 2.4 The Great Abyss. The watchers, terrified, begged for mercy. They pleaded with Enoch, God's faithful scribe, to intercede for them. But heaven's answer was merciless. You watched, and did not guard. You descended, and defiled. Now, you will witness the death of your children. And you will be cast into the abyss. And so it was. The Nephilim fell one by one. Their bodies collapsed like shattered mountains. Their screams echoed through the ages. The watchers were bound. And thrown into the depths of the abyss, where they still await judgment to this day. But the earth still bled. Still cried out. And to cleanse it once and for all. Something greater was on the way. A judgment, in the form of water. Act 3, The Flood and the Divine Judgment. 3.1 The Man Who Walked with God. In the midst of chaos, there was a remnant. A simple man. Calloused hands, an upright heart. His name was Noah. While the world celebrated sin, Noah built. Quietly. Hammer after hammer. Obeying a command that seemed like madness in the eyes of men. Build an ark. Said the voice. And he built. Even without a single cloud in sight. Even without grasping the scale of what was coming. 3.2 The Ark and the Warning. The wood was cut. The compartments were sealed with pitch. Every measurement echoed divine precision. The ark wasn't just a boat. It was the final cry of mercy from a God who loved. But also judged. Noah warned them. Day after day, he spoke. Judgment is coming. But they mocked him. You must repent. But they laughed. The sound of man's scorn rang louder than the seriousness of heaven. Until the first thunder struck. 3.3 The rain that never stopped. The The doors of the ark were shut. From the inside, God closed the door. And what was sealed, was settled. Then came the rain. Not a gentle drizzle, but a liquid fury tearing open the heavens. The fountains of the deep burst forth. The earth broke into floods. Mountains disappeared. Cities drowned. And with them, the screams of those who didn't believe. It was the silence of God, answering the shouting of sin. 3.4 The end of an era. For 40 days and 40 nights, the earth was washed clean. The giants drowned. The impure swept away. The pagan altars crushed. Everything went still. And in the midst of the waters, the ark floated. Inside it, 8 souls. And the promise of a new beginning. Justice had been served. But the memory still lingered. And with the end of the flood, the conflict between heaven and man's corruption wasn't over. Because even though the earth was clean, the human heart was still stained. Act 4, The Dark Legacy of the Nephilim. 4.1 They didn't die completely. The waters erased the bodies, but not the memories. Those beings, the Nephilim, were not just flesh. And what is spiritual, doesn't drown. Yes, their bodies perished. But their spirits wandered. Trapped between 2 realms. They became the wanderers. The shadows. The specters of darkness. Today, we know them by another name. Demons. 4.2 The hatred of the fallen. These spirits, born from the unholy union between heaven and earth, nurtured a bitter hatred toward God and everything He created. They whisper in men's ears. They feed wars, vanity, lust. They're behind wicked kingdoms, empires of corruption, and hidden altars. They know no peace, because they were born of rebellion. And what is born of disobedience never knows the light. 4.3 The Invisible War. Since then, an invisible war has raged. Men walk the earth. Unaware they tread on a battlefield. Behind ideologies. They're there. Behind false prophets. They're there. Behind every temptation that destroys the soul. They are there. They know the secrets of heaven, but serve chaos. They once saw the throne, but chose ruin. 4.4 A legacy that lives on. Even after the flood, the influence of the Nephilim remained. Cities rose, built on ancient ways. Hidden rituals resurfaced. Worship of strange gods flourished in valleys and mountaintops. And once again, man gave in. As if the flood had taught him nothing. As if the ark's door had never shut. Corruption began anew. And with it, the dark echo of the Nephilim can still be heard. In art. In politics. In religion. In the halls of power. They didn't disappear. They simply changed their mask. And they continue preparing the world for the return of chaos. Act 5, The Prophecy of the Return of the Days of Noah. 5.1 A Forgotten Warning. Jesus left us a sign. A prophetic key. But few paid attention. He said, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." Matthew 24 verse 37. Simple words, but filled with mystery. What exactly did he mean? The days of Noah were marked by corruption, violence, unchecked immorality, and yes, a twisted union between angels and humans. What if those days are coming back? Or worse, what if they're already here? 5.2 Technology or Nephilim 2.0. Today, man is tampering with DNA, creating new species. talking about transhumanism. Merging flesh with machine. Evolving into something beyond human. But, is that evolution? Or just a repeat of an ancient mistake? Just like the Watchers once descended and corrupted creation. Today, man tries to play God. Shaping life in his own image. The cycle begins again. The abyss reopens. 5.3 A generation that mocks. In Noah's day, they mocked the ark. They called the one warning about the flood a madman. Today, they mock again. They call it conspiracy theory. They laugh at prophecy. They deny judgment. But the ark is being built. This time, not from wood. But from faith. From repentance. From holiness. 5.4 Time is repeating itself. The mixture has returned. Corruption has spread. Spirituality has been twisted. And the world, once again, marches toward the same end. Judgment. Just like in the days of Noah. But this time, it won't be with water. It will be with fire. And those who fail to see the signs will be caught off guard. Act 6, the final judgment and the destiny of the Nephilim. 6.1 The judgment begins. Time is running out. The heavenly trumpets are no longer silent. Heaven is preparing for the final act. And those who corrupted the world will be called to answer. The Watchers, those who abandoned their sacred post, did not escape judgment. They were bound in the depths, in eternal darkness, awaiting the final day. But their children, the Nephilim, received no mercy. 6.2 The wandering spirits. When the Nephilim fell, their bodies died. But their spirits did not. They belonged neither to heaven, nor to earth. And so, they were condemned to wander. These are the evil spirits. The demons of the ancient world. The ones who torment, oppress, and deceive. They hate humanity. Because they were born of a union God never allowed. And now, they await the same judgment as their fathers. 6.3 The final fire. The book of Enoch is clear. The end will not come by water, but by fire. A fire that consumes every lie, every corruption, every legacy of darkness. The righteous will shine like the sun. But the fallen, the Watchers, the Nephilim, and all who followed them, will be cast into the eternal lake. There, where time stands still, and pain never ends. 6.4 The last trumpet. Enoch saw it all. And he wrote it down. He saw the thrones prepared, the souls judged, the books opened. He didn't write for the past. He wrote for us. For this generation. And now the trumpet sounds. The warning has been given. The line has been drawn. Where will you stand? When the heavens open, and truth finally descends with power. The giants have fallen. The Watchers were imprisoned. But the echo of their fall still reverberates in our world. The book of Enoch is not just a forgotten memory. It's a mirror. A warning. A message left for those who dare to listen. It's not just about what happened, but about what's about to happen. We live in days where knowledge increases. Morality fades. And once again, man tries to surpass the boundaries of heaven. The same seeds that sprouted in the pre-flood world are being planted again. Technology without a soul. Science without conscience. Spirituality without God. And just as it was in the days of Enoch, judgment will come. But hope will come too. The promise that the righteous will not be forgotten. That those who walk with God, as Enoch walked, will see the end from the beginning. And inherit a new beginning. Now, the question remains. If the Watchers fell because of desire. If the Nephilim fell because of power. What will bring down humanity? The answer lies in the choices we make now. Because the past isn't dead. It's only asleep. Waiting for the moment to return. If this story spoke to you, like, subscribe, and share. Help reignite the truths the world tried to erase. Because history doesn't repeat. It returns.